You guys can have a seat. So, one thing that I want to make very clear that I want you all to know about me is that I hate camping. I hate this thing. I don't, thank you. See, if it's an RV or like in a camper, that's a little different, but like camping in a tent is just, it's not for me. Like, I think if I had to live in a time before like electricity or indoor plumbing or air conditioning, I would die. Like, I don't have confidence in myself to be able to like live. Like, I watch these YouTube videos and these TV shows about trying to like give nature the business and really show who's boss. And I don't see the point to them. Like, I like the stuff of modern life. Here's how I know that I wouldn't make it. I went camping one time. This was in high school. It was after senior year. It was the summer before me and my friends went to college. And so we all decided, let's go camping. It's going to be a great time. Go out there for a week and it'll be great. It's not great. And so they put me in charge of getting the tent. This was a mistake, as some of you have figured out. So I went to Target, I went to Walmart, I went all around, and I was looking, and I found the perfect tent. This thing was huge. There were 4 of us. We could all fit in there. There was no problem. All of our stuff could fit in. I brought a full-size like suitcase with all of my stuff because I like to have clothes and options available, but it fit all of that. That's the wild thing. This tent was perfect, except for one problem. It was not a waterproof tent. But that was okay because I checked the weather, and there was only a 50% chance every single day that it was going to rain. Being the smart, ingenuitive person that I was, I knew that I could fix this tent because there was a product that they sold right next to the tent for people like me that is this spray, and it would waterproof whatever you spray. They had on the packaging that it would work for shoes and it would work for tents. And I said, hey, I'm using one of those things. So I grabbed like 9 of them, and I spent an entire afternoon spraying and reapplying every square inch of this tent. I made this tent perfect. There were no problems until the first night that we were camping. This is a picture of me and my friend Joshua. This was the perfect tent. You can barely see it. But this is my bag, his bag. Like, we had all of our stuff. It was perfect. There were no problems here. But the first night, I awoke to a monsoon outside and soon a monsoon inside. So right above me, it was like a movie. It was dripping straight on my forehead. That's how I woke up. So I did what any rational person would do. I panicked, and I woke all of my friends up, and I said, we have got to go. This was a failure. Can we go home? I hate this. And they said no, and they said it wasn't a problem because, it wasn't dripping on them. So they went back to sleep, and I was awake. So what you can't see from this picture is that we pitched our tent on a slope. This is my bag. This was downhill. So when I started experiencing our tent's new indoor pool, I started to freak out, and I woke all my friends up. I said, we're done. So we took all of our stuff in the middle of a monsoon, put it in a car, and we slept in the car, and it was damp, humid. It was terrible. It was the worst night of my life. So camping, quickly learned, not for me. Somebody else can have it. It's not mine. But the thing is that like I have things that I really like to have, to experience. And I think we all have these things. So like some of us, we when I ask you, what is something you need to survive? You would say things like food or water or shelter, and you'd be correct. Then there's other things that kind of keep life in our day and age going, like air conditioning, indoor plumbing, electricity, a waterproof shelter. These are all very important things to have. And so when we look at these things, they all serve a purpose to our lives, and they all positively impact our lives. Let me show you what I mean. So we have food. It gives us energy. We love that. We love food. It tastes good, and it lets us do anything that we can do. Cars, they get us from point A to point B faster than horses, and it's fantastic, and everybody can have them, and we love them. A waterproof roof keeps you from having to go camping because there's no point in doing that if you have one of those. It's just not for me. See, we can so easily identify the purpose of these things that we use every single day. But when we point to ourselves, things get a little tricky to identify the purpose. Like, why can we more readily identify the purpose of a phone or a car than our own purpose in life. At one point or another, every single one of us has asked this question: what is my purpose? And this is a super important question. Don't hear me when I don't hear what I'm not saying. This is an insanely important question. And in my life, when I don't have an answer to this question, I spend my life just kind of meaninglessly wandering. Just kind of waking up every day to get through the day so I can go to sleep and do it again the next day. See, when we don't have an answer to this question, we swing our attention to other things and other people. And we look at other people and we compare ourselves to them, typically on social media. And we look at them, we look at their perfect life that they present, and we look at our lives, the garbage that we know we have. And we feel inadequate. We feel less than. See, this issue of not really understanding our purpose, it extends to both Christians and non-Christians alike, because we can get so caught up in the day-to-day that we cease to live out a way to determine our purpose. What is my purpose? Here's the question we always ask: where do we even begin to determine our purpose? Because this is a big question. We should really have a roadmap together of how to find this. Where do we typically start? We start by looking within ourselves, because we can do anything. Like, that's the whole point of the American dream, that if we roll up our sleeves, if we work hard enough, we can attain anything that we set our minds to. And with that comes this freedom to be whatever we want to do anything we want. And sometimes that freedom can kind of lead to paralysis. See, I have a friend, I don't know if any of you guys have a friend like this, but I do, and I'm going to assume you do. I have this friend back home in Kentucky that would come up to me like every month or every quarter with this new aspiration in life, like this new goal. Like, he knew what he wanted to do for a month, but he would come up to me and he said, "Logan, I've bought editing software, I've bought cameras, I bought microphones. I am going to be the most successful YouTuber in the world." And I said, "Cool, awesome." He came back a month later. He said, "Logan, I've bought better editing equipment and better microphones, and I've decided to be the best podcaster you've ever met." I said, "Okay." Then he came to me. He said, "Logan, I have bought a printer that's very special. I bought special paper and an art kind of software, and I'm going to create and sell stickers. That's going to be my source of income." I said, "Okay, this is a man with a wife and a child." And I said, "Awesome. Here's my favorite one. I was in college, and I get a call one day, and he goes, 'Logan, I've done it.' And I go, 'What have you done?' He goes, 'I now own a hot dog cart, and I am going to sell these hot dogs in my hometown. So I've done it.'" And I don't understand that, but regardless, and as wild as that sounds, there's something in each and every one of us that believes that if we push hard enough, we can accomplish anything that we set out to do. What if I told you that this was the wrong starting place for our purpose? What if I told you that your purpose doesn't start with you? So tonight, we're going to dive back into the Sermon on the Mount, and we're going to see what Jesus has to say about our purpose, about how we should live. So a quick outline for where we're going tonight. We're going to look at two ways that our identity impacts our purpose, and we're going to see how our actions impact our purpose. So before we kind of hop into this, if you've been around the church for a little bit, you have probably come across where we're going to be tonight. And there's a temptation when we know a text to really just kind of zoom through it or zone out when someone's talking about it and just kind of think we know what it means and let's get to something new and exciting. But I really want to encourage us all to lean in here, because I know that God has something he wants to tell each and every one of us about our purpose. So if you have your Bibles, flip them open to Matthew 5. We're going to be in Matthew 5:13 through 16. If you have your phones, you can scroll it open to Matthew 5:13 through 16. And we're going to read this whole section as a chunk, and then we're going to go back and we're going to work through it a little slower. So starting in verse 13, this is Jesus talking. He says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt should lose its taste, how can it be made salty? It's no longer good for anything but to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand, and it gives light for all who are in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. So Jesus, he's talking to believers here, and he's saying that in his kingdom, we're salt, we're light. Salt and light, they change things, they're transformative. Jesus is saying that your purpose is to be transformational. So let's kind of roll back the clock. Let's go back to verse 13 and we'll work through it again. Verse 13 says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt should lose its taste, how can it be made salty? It's no longer good for anything but to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet." So Jesus, he comes right out of the gate here and he calls us salt. Ooh. So like salt when we encounter salt in our daily lives, we don't really think about it a whole lot, but let's think about it tonight. Salt is distinct. Salt transforms the thing that it encounters. Like, have you guys ever gone to a fast food restaurant or a regular restaurant and you order fries, because of course you do, they're delicious, and you order fries and you get one that like got no love from the salt shaker at all. And so you pop that bad boy in your mouth and it is bland, it's somehow now mushy, like it's a disgusting experience because there's no salt. Like it's basically just a potato stick at that point and it has no value whatsoever. But you put salt on this potato stick and it becomes a French fry. It becomes something amazing. See, like it transforms things. Things change when salt enters the equation. This leads us to the first thing that we learn about our purpose. We transform like salt. We transform like salt. See, Jesus, he's declaring our identity in his kingdom as salt. Look at this. He says, you are the salt of the earth. This is important. What he's not saying is I want you to live like salt and then maybe one day I'll make you salt. He's not saying I want you to do X, Y, and Z for me and then boom, you'll make it and I'll make you salt and then you'll be effective. No. Jesus is saying that you already are the salt of the earth. Now let me show you how to live. Let me show you what your purpose is. See, salt, when you add it to something, it changes it because salt is distinct. Salt has something that the thing it touches doesn't have. And see, as Christians, we are no different. We are distinct. Christians change things because of the distinctiveness of what we bring into it. What do we have that the world doesn't? Jesus. See, we add to the culture around us by living in such a way as to present Jesus. We flavor the world around us through our joy, our love, our mercy. When I look at the world, I don't see a world that's generous. I don't see a world that loves. I don't see a world that lives like Jesus. See, the name of the game as far as purpose is concerned with the world is to go get yours. Go get money, go get power, go get women, go get followers, go get all of these things and step on anyone and everyone you can because you are the one that matters. But Jesus here, he shows us something way more beautiful. Jesus shows us this purpose that is external of ourselves because we transform others because of Jesus in our lives. We have the ability to transform that which we come in contact with because of Jesus. Because of him. See, when a Christian enters something, it changes. It transforms. See, we all know these people who just kind of completely change the atmosphere of a room when they enter it. These are my grandparents. Granny and Papa is what I call them. And Papa is one of these people that changes the entire atmosphere wherever he is. I remember when I was 7 or 8, I was staying with them for a weekend, and they had an event they had to go to, which meant I had an event I had to go to. And it was like this agricultural board meeting kind of thing. It wasn't something that like 8-year-old Logan was like super jazzed to go to. But I will never forget that night. We walked through the door. There were about 30 or 40 people at this event, but we walked through the door, and people's faces turned, and they saw Papa. They saw him walk through the door, and they lit up. They were excited that he was here. And the entire night, Papa went around to each and every person there, and he just talked with them. He listened to them. He would remember these like really small details about their lives. And it would transform the room because he was loving people like Jesus. He cared about people. He genuinely cared about them. And it changed the entire atmosphere of the room. One of my favorite things he did was he would constantly be scanning the room for someone sitting in the back, someone sitting by themselves. He would go up to them and just sit down and love them. And it changed the entire atmosphere of the room. He took this agricultural board meeting that was as good as a potato stick and he made it a French fry because he added something distinct. He added Jesus to that room. See, when we're living out our purpose to transform the culture like salt, we are positively impacting everyone around us. So let me ask you, how are you doing? What is your impact on those around you? How is Jesus blessing people through you? How does the room change when you enter? Do people want to be around you? Or do you not really shift a room at all? See, when we lose sight of our purpose to live like Jesus in every scenario of our lives, we can easily fall into this complacency of thinking maybe the world is just a little too out there. They don't really look like Jesus, and so I'm kind of nervous to step in there to transform like salt. But that is what the salt does. It goes into an area that's different to seek to transform, and we transform because of Christ working through us. See, when we lose that drive, when we lose the desire to live like Christ to those around us, we lose our distinctiveness. And Jesus, he talks about that. He says, if the salt should lose its taste, how can it be made salty? It's no longer good for anything but to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. See, if we're not positively impacting the world around us because we're offering it Jesus, then we become as useless as unsalty salt. Become as useless as unsalty salt, and we're not living out our purpose. No matter who you are, or no matter where Jesus has placed you, you are called to transform every place you find yourself. And it's not because of you. It's because you live like Jesus and you bring Jesus into the room to those around you. See, we have a purpose that is rooted in our identity as salt. We transform like salt. How can you impact those around you by loving them like Jesus? How would Jesus love that person that's at the restaurant that takes forever to get your food out and then they finally do and it's totally not what you ordered? How would Jesus love the coworker that steps all over you, takes credit for everything you do, takes it to the boss like it's their own thing and gets that promotion you deserve? How would Jesus love that person? How would Jesus love that person? Here's my challenge to you. Positively impact someone this week by loving them like Jesus would. There's a little star there. Pick someone you don't think deserves it. It's easy to love people that we think deserve it, but pick someone that you don't and impact them by loving them like Jesus and watch transformation start to happen. So maybe you're sitting here tonight and you're thinking hey, I'm a Christian, but I don't really see that kind of transformation happening around me. Why? Why am I not being transformative? We'll put a pin in that because we're going to come right back to that. But for now, let's jump back into the verse. We're going to hit 14 and 15 here. Jesus says, "You are the light of the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand. And it gives light to all who are in the house." See, right off the bat, we're hit with our second identity. We are the light of the world. Again, it's the same thing as the salt thing. Jesus isn't saying that, I want you to get to be the light of the world, but you kind of have to do this, and you can't do that, and then maybe we'll make you the light of the world. No, he's saying if you are in Jesus, you are the light of the world. This is really important to see yourself as this light because this is who Jesus calls us. Light transforms everything, just like salt. Light transforms in that it reveals and it shines. See, this isn't super new. This is an incredibly novel concept. But light makes everything possible. Like if there was not light in this room, I would fall off of the stage almost instantaneously. I can guarantee you that. But light allows life to happen. It shows what's important. Here's the cool thing about light is that it can't help but shine. It's in its very nature that its purpose is fulfilled. Light is obvious. It draws attention to itself. See, I got the opportunity to go to Israel a couple years ago. And I took this picture from the top of the mountain that most scholars think Jesus preached the Sermon on the Mount. This is in Galilee. There's the kind of region of Galilee here. There's a little village down there. There's the Sea of Galilee. But this is on top of this mountain looking all around. And Jesus is standing up here saying, like a city on a hill, your light can't be hidden. The impact that the light from a city on a hill has cannot be hidden. I took this picture from under this mountain looking up at it. If there was a city up there with lights kind of all going around it, you can't hide that. That is obvious. It draws attention. Let's go one step further. This is a picture from NASA that the astronauts took on the International Space Station of Florida. You're talking about a city on a hill that can't be hidden? You can't hide the lights of a city from space. We're called to live, to shine. And it can't be hidden. It can't be hidden. Light transforms the space around it. It completely transforms the surface of the earth from space. And that is exactly the point of what Jesus is talking about here. This is the second thing we learn about our purpose. We transform like light. We transform like light. We reveal Jesus to everyone around us by living in such a way to present him to those we come in contact with. See, it's difficult not to notice light. That's how we're supposed to interact with the culture. We're to unashamedly shine the glory of Jesus to those around us because it's his light. See, just like earlier when Jesus said there's no point in being unsalty salt, here there is no point in being an invisible light. There's no point in being a secret disciple of Christ. See, sometimes it can be so easy to just kind of put our head down and go through life and avoid any kind of situation where we might have to talk about Jesus because it gets a little hard. It gets a little difficult when we start to talk about these things. See, believe me, I get it. Some days there's nothing more that I want than just to kind of close my eyes, put my head down, go through my day, and avoid all of these conversations. And I think that deep down, we all kind of feel that way. Deep down, we all kind of feel like, maybe that's not my job. Someone else will do it. Someone else more qualified, someone else who knows more. Like the Holy Spirit's nudging me to go talk to that person, but Matt could do a better job. Let me go get Matt. He can talk to him. Or you know what? Chip is preaching on that this weekend. Let's get this person to church and they can talk about it. No, that's not what Jesus is saying. Jesus has made you the light. The light doesn't get to decide when it's on or when it's off. The light just shines. That's the beauty of the light. It's always shining. Jesus is not a secret to be kept. So in verse 15 of this, Jesus talks about this concept of placing a lamp on a lampstand. And so this is what kind of a house would look like in the time of Jesus. Unless you were super wealthy, a house was typically maybe one room. And it was before electricity, it was before all of that. So when it got dark, it got dark. And so what they would do, it's a novel concept, I know, but what they would do was they would have these lampstands in the house. And they would take their lamp that wasn't electronic, and they would set it on the lampstand. And because of how the house was, because it was so small, it was one room, this one lamp would shine light to the entire house. That's some transformation. See, in the same way, Jesus takes us as the light, and he takes us over here, and he puts us on the lampstand of our friend groups to shine in their midst. To reveal Jesus to them, to live like Jesus to them. He takes us, the light, he puts us on the lampstand of our family to shine to them, to reveal Jesus to them. He takes us and he puts us on the lampstand of our workplace to shine for our coworkers, to reveal Jesus to our coworkers. See, this is the purpose that we have. We shine for Jesus wherever he places you, whatever lampstand he places you on. So let me ask you this. What are you illuminating? Are you revealing the grace of Jesus through your actions? Are you showing his love to people? Are you showing mercy? Are you showing generosity? Are you showing Jesus to other people? Or does your light look a little different? Does your light show anger, bitterness, self-righteousness, pride, whatever it may be? Because hear me when I say this, we are all shining. But what is it that other people see? See, look closely at what Jesus is saying. He's not saying that you are the light of the world that can turn on sometimes when you want to be over here, and then you can turn off over here because that's kind of not a fun situation, but you're back on over here. That's not what he's saying. He's using language like hidden, under a basket. He's saying that your light is always shining, but what is it that other people see? Because we can obstruct it. We can dilute it. We can change the thing that other people see when they look at our light. See, sometimes it's not even necessarily a bad thing that we're shining, but because it's not Jesus, there's a problem. See, what do? We're creatures that naturally emanate and we shine for whatever we get excited about, right? So I had breakfast at this place and it was so good that when my parents came down, I was like, we have to go here. Let's go tomorrow. I'll even buy your food. And I get so excited and my light changes. I go to a movie and I see this movie. We all do this. We see this movie and it blows our mind. And we think, oh my gosh, you need to see it. You need to see it. I will pay for it. Let's go. And our light changes. Thank you. I'm a big sports guy. And when my team scores or when we win or when we blow someone out, I post about it. I get excited. I trash talk all the other sports fans in my life. I get super excited about it. It becomes my all-consuming, just yes, and my light changes. See, this is the thing. When we start to illuminate Jesus by living like him, people change, people transform. See, light reveals what's important. A good kind of pulse check to ask people around you is to ask them what they think you're passionate about. That will reveal a lot about the light that they see from you. See, light is important, and we transform like light. So I know what everyone in here is thinking. You're like, that's cool. Live like salt. That's cool. Live like light. What do I do? What is a practical step I can take? This is a good question because Jesus was ready for you. Because in verse 16, he says, in the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. See, notice something really interesting here. The verbiage kind of changes a little bit. See, Jesus spent verses 13, 14, and 15 declaring our identity. For those of us who are in him, we are salt, we are light, but things have started to change. He says, let your light shine. It's an action. So that they can see your good works. It's an action. This is the beautiful thing about our purpose. It changes how we look at this. Jesus sets up our identity before our actions. There's a change in identity before a change of actions ever happens. This brings us to our third point about our purpose. We are transformed for action. See, here's the amazing part. This really cool thing, this blew my mind, is that this salt and this light identity that Christ puts on us when we become Christians is special. See, in Isaiah, in the prophet Isaiah, Jesus is foretold as this coming light who's going to come and bring salvation to the world, and he does that. And in John, Jesus stands before people and he says, I am the light of the world. And what does the light of the world do? He gives us that identity. The light of the world makes us the light of the world. See, when we put our faith in Jesus, our very identity becomes transformed by Christ. And with that change of identity comes a change in purpose. I want to say something that will legitimately transform the way you look at your purpose. Presence feeds into purpose. Presence feeds into purpose. The presence of Jesus in your life feeds into your purpose. And when I say the presence of Jesus, I mean this ongoing relationship that you have with him where each and every day, little by little, Jesus works on you to transform you a little bit more into himself. And as he transforms you a little bit more into himself, our interests start to change, our purpose starts to change, and out of the movement that Jesus does in our hearts, we move on those around us in the circles of our influence. See, if you keep banging your head against the wall because you're trying to figure out what your purpose is, this is the answer for you. We will consistently be stuck if we try to figure out what to do before we figure out who we are. Our identity informs every decision that we make. See, Jesus, one of my favorite things about this is he's given us a very practical answer for how to live for him and how to be salt and be light and all of this. And he says it in verse 16. He says we do good works. We don't do good works to become salt. We don't do good works to become light. Because we've been transformed into the salt and into the light that we now do good works. This is the coolest thing too, is that because of the change of identity that God has done in us, it's only then that our good works are able to bring God glory. Let me ask you this. When you accomplish your purpose, when you do everything that you set out to do in life, when it's all over, where's the spotlight? Where's the light pointing? Who gets glorified at the end of your purpose? Are you living in such a way to build yourself up, to put the light on you, to give yourself the glory for everything you do? Or are you living in such a way to shine that light on God, to give him the glory? Because here's what'll happen. This is important. Here's what will happen. If you live in such a way to build yourself up, to glorify yourself in everything that you do, to be the best, to have everyone know it, here's what will happen. You'll get the glory. Nothing is particularly transformed by that. That's the end of that train. But if you live in such a way as to bring the glory to God, as to point to God for each and everything you do, here's what happens. God gets the glory. And why is that better? Because if you keep elevating yourself, then everyone around you is going to look at you, and they're going to compare themselves to you. But if you look at God, if you point at God, if he gets the credit for everything, people will look at him. And they'll say, if God can transform this person, if God can do this through them, maybe, just maybe, he can do it with me. Maybe, just maybe, God can do it with me. Talk about transformation. This is the idea here. See, when I think about these people that they work for their own glorification a lot of the times, I think of these like superstar athletes that they make millions on millions on millions of dollars because they're fantastic at their craft. And what happens? Kids everywhere, and people everywhere, but kids everywhere will look at these people and they'll say, I'm going to be the next LeBron. I'm going to be the next Steph. I'm going to shoot better than him. So what do? They learn everything that person does. They learn their moves, how they shoot. They spend their entire life looking at this person and saying, I'm going to be better than them. 99.9 repeating % of the time, they can't. They're left feeling inadequate, like they wasted some time. See, but let's flip this. Let's look at this guy named Paul that we read about in the New Testament. Paul was a person, before he met Jesus, he went by Saul, but before he met Jesus, this was a person that hated Jesus. He hated him. This is a person who killed Christians. He did everything he could to work against God, to go against Jesus, to do all of this. But then he met Jesus. He was transformed by Jesus, and he spent the entire rest of his life glorifying Jesus, honoring Jesus, bringing all of the spotlight on him. And we read everything he wrote. He wrote most of the New Testament, and we look at him. I stand here 2,000 some years later, and we are talking about this person and the way that he pointed himself to Jesus. And I look at him and I say, if God can do that transformation in that terrible person who was so antagonistic to him, what can he do with me? How can he transform me? See, earlier I said that if you're a believer, if you're in Christ, your purpose was to be transformational. Although that's true, that's kind of incomplete. So if you hear nothing else from what I'm about to say tonight, hear this. This is the big thing. Your purpose is to be transformational because Jesus first transformed us. See, at the beginning of this whole night, I talked about these things that I needed to survive, that I needed to live on. See, this conversation isn't really a new one. I found that was really interesting. Like, people have always kind of had this conversation about, yeah, we need food and water, but like, what else do we really need to keep life in this day and age going? So there was a guy, his name was Pliny the Elder, and he lived around the time of Jesus. He wasn't a Christian. He didn't believe in Jesus, but he was a historian, and he had this really good pulse on the world. So he existed at the time of Jesus, and this is his quote on what people at the time of Jesus needed to have life happen. There is nothing more useful than salt and sunshine. Jesus was looking at these people around him, and what they were hearing was, hey, you are salt, you are light, you are the most important thing for this earth right now. You're the most important thing. And he is telling us the same thing, that if we live in such a way to present Jesus to those around us like salt, if we live to present Jesus to those around us like light, if we do good works that shine the spotlight on God, we are living in the most important purpose that there is. But what does this really look like to you and me? Like tomorrow, when we walk into the office, like what does this look like? I have a couple questions that I think will really help us figure out what we are going to do. First, how has Jesus transformed you? This is an important question because it's in the way he transforms us that he calls us to help him transform others. How has Jesus transformed you, and how can you use that to help him transform others? See, because here's the thing. Has Jesus transformed you from bitterness, from anger, from rage? Has he reached into your life and transformed that? That you are called to work to transform that in others. Has Jesus reached into your marriage and transformed it from the brink of ruin? Your purpose is to testify to the power that Jesus has to transform marriages. How has Jesus transformed you, and how can you use that to help him transform others? So we all came in here tonight, whether you were thinking about it or whether you weren't, with this concept of purpose. We all kind of think about purpose in a different light. See, some of us, they think, I don't really have this grand purpose. I don't really have an impact. I don't really know what I'm called to do. Some of us, we know what we're called to do, but we think that's what we can do in the here and now that makes the difference. We think if I get enough money, if I get enough notoriety, if I get enough power, I'll have made it, and that is the focus of my purpose. And if the here and now is all that matters, if this is all that there is, go do that. If right here, right now in this life is the only thing that exists, go get power. Go do all of these things because they're the most important thing. If this is all there is, there's a problem with that. There's a problem with that. See, if here and now is all there is, then no matter who you are, whether you're Taylor Swift, whether you're Bob from Kentucky, your legacy has an expiration date. If the here and now is all there is, you will live your life, and there will be a time when somebody will think about you for the last time. They'll think about your purpose or the thing that you did for the last time, and you'll ultimately just cease to exist. Everyone's got an expiration date if this is all there is in the here and now. So each attempt to gain notoriety, each attempt to gain the praise of others, to make an impact, to do anything, if the here and now is all there is, then everything we're doing is just an attempt to extend the expiration date of our legacy. But I get to stand up here and tell you the here and now is not all that there is. When you live this purpose of being salt, to add Jesus to those around you, when you live in your purpose to shine the glory of Jesus to those around you, when you live in such a way to do good works that bring glory and honor to God, your purpose has an eternal impact. How do I get there? Because if we live in such a way that because we've been transformed by Christ, we start to work to help him transform others, then other people see that and they connect with Jesus and Jesus starts to transform them. That's an eternity changed. And then they seek to be transformational, and then they connect other people to Jesus, and then Jesus transforms them, and it keeps on going. This is our beautiful, eternal purpose, that when we live like Jesus is saying, we have an impact that extends far beyond the here and now. We have an impact that extends into eternity. See, maybe you're here tonight. Maybe you're here and you're hearing what I'm saying, but you haven't experienced Jesus' transformation in your life. Maybe you're here and you're thinking, yeah, but you don't know what I've done. You don't know the things that I've done, the things that I've said. You don't know that. Can Jesus still transform me? And I get to stand up here and I get to tell you that Jesus is waiting here with open arms, ready to transform you because he loves you. Because Jesus cares about you so much, he can transform you. See, we spend our entire lives searching for purpose, searching for something that matters, searching for something beyond ourselves. Jesus is standing right here, and he's offering exactly what we've always been wanting. He looks at us and he says, no, you're not useless. No, you're not worthless. You are the most important thing for this earth because I have given you my purpose. I've given you a new identity, and with that comes a change in purpose. Your purpose, our purpose, is to be transformational because Jesus first transformed.